Thank you so much, Mr. Anup, and thank you so much, Mr. Selin, for to kindly join us, who is Mr. Bala, Ramanan B. Senior Director, Risk and Compliance, Microland. Mr. Bala is a global head for information security in Microland Limited for close to a decade. He has 26 years of total work experience spanning across domains like cybersecurity, business process, re-engineering, GRC, private and business continuity. With this, ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to kindly put your hands together for Mr. Bala Ramanan. The first panelist right after moderator is going to be Mr. Narayana, MS, founder of Tacitine Consulting Private Limited. May I request you, sir, to kindly join us on the stage, who is also a founder, like I said, and is one of the Indian startup in a highly Western-dominated internet security space. With this, I'm going to move forward and invite our next panelist on the stage, that is Mr. Satish Kumar, who is the Senior Vice President and CISO InMobi Group, and has 28 plus years of experience in IT and information security, and is currently the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at InMobi Group. With this, ladies and gentlemen, our next panelist joining us on the stage is none other than the General Manager and CISO of BESCOM, Mr. Krishna Murthy, who is also a certified energy auditor, postgraduate in management from TAPI Management Institute, and presently is a General Manager and for BESCOM, and he's engaged with the BESCOM industry for last 34 years. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, our next panelist is Mr. Sesha Prakash Kusuma Sreenivasa, who is a Chief Consulting Officer at Gorisco Solutions. May I request you, sir, to kindly join us on the stage. He has more than 42 years of experience, out of which 14 years is in the domain of information security and information system. With this, I am going to leave the stage in the safe hands of our moderator, Mr. Bala Ramanan.
I think we are really going to make this audience, more exciting during the discussion. Before I get into more formal introduction here and discussing on the topic, before I just came to the dais, I was just Googling for sophisticated malware, on the Twitter. I was just looking at it, and I saw Microsoft, one Nobelium, APT attack, which has been very prominent, very sophisticated is one part, and I saw one more which is on, which is attacking the small office and home office routers. APT groups are targeting that because it is. I believed in one thing, which is if any hacker would apply his common sense, I don't think he will be attacking a data center, because he knows ways and means to identify the VIPs in an organization and target their home wireless systems or steal their laptop. In all likelihood, senior executives do not have more complex controls on their endpoints. So that was one thing which I wanted to just set as a course before we start. Open question. When we say malware and sophistication, malware itself is more sophisticated. And when we say sophisticated malware, we've got a variety of panel members here, one from the government sector, one from a consulting background, one from the most attacked vector, which is telecom, and supporting vector, and from a product side also. I would like to hear from you, Satish. What is your thought process on that?
Yeah, okay. So thank you for having me here. So when you say sophisticated malware, predominantly if you look at the overall threat landscape, in fact, because especially during COVID times, things have changed, and people are working from home, as you said about those exploiting those home routers. That's one thing, but as such, malware itself has taken a lot of shapes. In fact, go back to the very old, I think when we started our days, the I love you virus or the file kind of viruses are no more now.
Yes.
In fact, So today, when you say APT, just for the audience, the whole threats have changed. When I say advanced persistent threats, the threat actors are no more just coming just for fun, because they're just coming for, of course, taking some kind of data, because data is the real value in factor. So one is coming into the enterprise with very targeted approach. So that's the whole advanced piece, because threat actors are no more just coming for fun, or that is one side. And second, the defense part. Earlier, the traditional antivirus, what we used to use early, so many years back, which are fundamentally signature based. Like, okay, if the signature matching, the probably antivirus solution can start detecting. So this whole new advanced malware is all about the attackers or the perpetrators writing specifically for a targeted, like I'm sure most of you heard of this Bangladesh bank SWIFT attack, which was just which is very clear targeted. So I think that is the level of sophistication we're seeing now. So I just say lighter note, for sophisticated attacks, you need to have sophisticated solutions also. So you can't use those traditional antivirus solutions.
We also heard from the earlier panelists that AI and ML are actually not going to save your ass there.
Yeah, but the previous panel, I think Anup spoke about XDR.
Yeah.
But, so I just want to say all these are traditional antivirus became EPP, endpoint protection suite, then it became what do you call, all the new terms, EDR, now XDR, MDR. I think that's how the evolution, I think I'll stop here.
You brought out a very beautiful point to think, which also is one of my questions there. But before that, I would want to take opinion from Mr. Krishnamurthy.
Just to add to what my co-panelist mentioned, sophisticated malware, when we speak about, I think it's the efficiency of the malware to succeed in its objective. I think that is the criteria which is to be associated with the word sophistication, is what I think.
Okay, but why do you think it is getting sophisticated?
We have systems to tackle with the traditional, issues coming out of these attacks. I think the people on the other side are trying to be more successful in their attacks. So they are developing better, more effective malwares. And as again my co-panelist said, I think focusing on specific sectors or areas which could be penetrable. That's what I feel about it.
So we have been hearing a lot of research that a lot of sophisticated attacks are being targeted on the critical infrastructure of a particular country, or they target the top 3, top 4 businesses in a particular vertical, like a hotel industry or a service industry, something like that, or banks or something like that. So that is a pattern which is evolving. But the core part which I wanted to, maybe I will take from Mr. Sesha, while malware attacks are the means, right? Rather malware is the end. What are the means which are kind of acting as a conduit to allow or make a sophistication attack more easier, like Mr. Krishnamurthy was saying. It's a malware's ability to, penetrate through level 2, level 3, maybe the sophistication is very low end. Maybe if it's able to penetrate 10 levels, then the sophistication is more complex.
Yes. Good evening to all of you, and to answer this question. Sophistication is also a mindset. Sophistication is also technology. Sophistication is also what you don't understand.
Yes.
Right?
I think that will be the first one.
Right. So now whenever we are looking from a consultant perspective rather than from a technology perspective, what I feel about sophistication of malware is its ability to hide itself, its ability to, recognize a particular asset, its ability to, whatever we call it, whether destruction, leakage, and how it is able to exploit that particular asset that we are trying to protect. That is where I am looking at sophistication. And when you went with your this one about from a critical infrastructure perspective, whatever I have seen in the utility industry, the ability of the attacker to study the system with all the resources and then pointedly impact that particular asset is the level of sophistication that is coming into
We have
play.
been seeing that a lot in the movies, but the movies are also becoming a reality today.
Yes.
And, Narayan, how will you take that point, which is sophistication is again lack of understanding, right? Sophistication is my inability to, my ability to hide as a malware, but inability for the organization to identify that I'm hiding. From a product point of view, I mean, what is your thought process there?
Now see, malware mostly like it is all people's misunderstanding only, how it really works. And there mostly it is ignorance. Okay, even though there are multiple tools available, they have the right products in place, whether it is an SME or SOGO or an enterprise, right? They have all the products in place, but what we noticed from our side is like many times it was not configured for the right things to protect it, right? They have antivirus, they have endpoint antivirus, they have firewalls, they have everything in place. But most of the time, the mobiles or the laptops which is taken to home, there is no two-factor. There is no way we are identifying whether those are vulnerable devices. That's where the real ignorance is coming. That is the reason why they will come to know only after the server is completely gone.
Okay.
Right? Many times we have noticed it, like we used to inform, we used to tell boss, don't do this, but the IT manager will say, this is what I want. Now, as a product vendor, it is difficult for you to say no or difficult for you to say yes. So many times we will send an email, many times we will say, no, this is all ransomware code, this is all malware, this is very, very sophisticated. Many SOGOs and SMEs, right, it's because it is not like they don't want to do it, they're forced to do.
Okay.
So it is not like an enterprise segment where there is an audit happening or there is a third-party people who are coming and educating them. In SME SOGOs, that is very much lagging. So that need to be taught to people, then only this ignorance will go away, then the understanding will be much, much better.
Okay, because now you have touched upon a little different area. Maybe I'll take input from Satish on that. So when he says, I am trying to help, as a customer, he is refusing to take this point because of whatever reasons, right? So on what basis an organization should be looking at a threat vector called sophisticated malware? A threat attack, a sophisticated malware is there. How are they supposed to even look at it? How do they even know it's sophisticated?
See,
I mean, I know it's a little broad question.
no, but that's fine. Okay, I think let's go back to fundamentals. I think predominantly, while our nation evaluates these kind of endpoint security solutions or whatever anti-malware solutions, I think fundamentally we all go back to the risk-based approach.
Yes.
It's not one-size-fits-all solution because he picked up SMB, SOHO. So without naming solution, but for SMB, SOHO, the problem statement will be very different versus a large enterprise, or not only just large by size. Like I come from a digital native enterprise, where it's not about scale in size, but it's about the technology advancements in which these tech companies runs, especially digital natives companies. Like my workloads are no more plain vanilla workloads. We heavily run on containers.
Yeah.
It's a completely hypervisor in the sense the whole stack is very different, and cloud. So the point is, I think it's not about one size fits all solution. I think enterprises need to go back and evaluate what is the overall threat landscape. As you said rightly, what are the threat vectors? Now, lighter note, who's behind you? and also, of course, the segment and the sector, of course, like a fintech will be more targeted because I earlier was with fintech enterprise.
Probability
where
is more.
The probability is more. And so I think the fundamental risk-based approach, look at what is your threat vector or the threat actors who are behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And also the regulatory requirements, and because today regulatory bodies are also very much, in fact, are very clear on what level of solutions are you adopting, implementing, versus, of course, the technology companies which are, in fact, today, we're looking at all these newer solutions, especially because the traditional antivirus was even it cannot really look at your current infrastructure in fact. So whereas that's the, and probably earlier we were more focused on prevention protection. I think today organizations have realized that whatever said and done, you cannot protect and prevent. So also you should need to, I think
Let
today.
me not be the first person to get compromised.
Exactly. So today I think the mindset is okay, early detection response. I think that's where the whole evolution of these new solutions which are talking just not about prevention protection, but also detection response. And thanks to, I think there was a discussion on AI, ML and cloud, especially today we have a lot of data. So earlier it was a very point solution because the system it's just point. Today I think thanks to the cloud adoption and we have a lot of threat intel coming in. So I think it's very dynamically with all these indicators of compromise and threat intel feeds coming in, I think the systems can predict what kind of probably threat is into the environment. That's what predominantly XDR talks about.
I will come to that because there is always an element of false positives in that. Yes. And as you rightly said, we don't know what the algorithm of AI works and how it's going to throw up certain things. So as humans, we need to figure out some sense out of the data, some sense of the processed data also. So that, keeping that aside, I would want Sesha to comment on how an organization, when they want to define a strategy, right? When they want to, say today, if I'm an organization, I want to build up a more secure architecture, and we know with lots of threat reports in the market from all the big fours and all the big names, we know that sophisticated malware attacks and ransomware are on the top of the list, right? So from a security architecture point of view, do you see that organizations are looking into that?
Well, let me answer the basic question from people process technology perspective.
Okay.
Right? Basically, the security culture of the organization becomes very important even to stop the most sophisticated of the malware that can creep in, right? I'm not going into the technicalities of the sophistication of the software.
Correct.
But most of the organizations still don't have basic cyber hygiene. You understand? Once, to be very frank, to what extent cyber training is being given in many big organizations, it will be just probably an annual event, or it could probably an LMS kind of a situation.
I would just want to pause you here. From the audience, how many of you have actually attended more than one session of cyber awareness in your organization? Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, ideally, yeah.
Ideally, yes.
Okay, it's about, I would say about 30-40%. Okay, good. At least I thought it will be very words, but 40% is okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes, see, the awareness can come in several forms. The awareness can come in the form of
Coin. Because if I keep the doors open and allow the thief comes in, I mean, that is one part of it. It is not about, they are being intelligent. I am not being fortified.
But I have covered that with cyber hygiene.
Yeah. So the other side is,
Yes.
I am prepared for it,
Yes,
but still I get compromised.
true.
Then how much more I am supposed to move the needle becomes a question mark.
Definitely. And that is where the level of technology is coming in, where the AI and the ML are also contributing in helping the attacker to improve his code or improve his mechanism to bring about the complexity in the ability for the detection mechanisms to detect that particular malware which is there within their system. Many a times it has been given or it has been reported by many of this threat reporting, it takes 270 days even to know that you are already compromised.
Correct.
So that is the level of detection capacity we have. So that shows the sophistication level of the malware.
Okay. So one more question to the audience. What is your patch management compliance? Is it more than 98%? Anybody 98% can raise? Wow.
Only one
Only
at the
one.
end.
So why I took specifically patch management was when you said technology. So irrespective of the fact that we have the EDRs, XDRs, XSDR, sensor, and whatever it is, AI, ML, you know, all put in one bucket and you shake it up and you get a solution, they are not able to do patch management effectively, which means my perimeter is still vulnerable, or my endpoint is still vulnerable, or my CEO laptop could still be vulnerable, is something which, you know, which I have seen. And, you know, that's one point which I would add to what you were saying also.
If I can continue,
Okay.
so what happens with patch management? Today, with the complexity of the infrastructure itself, patch management is no longer simply patch management.
Yes.
It is no longer change management either.
Yes.
You understand, the dependencies have grown so much that even the smallest of the vendor in the supply chain, if he is not able to give his patch, the whole chain is
Goes
going
for
to be
toss.
vulnerable. And again, sophisticated or otherwise, the malware is still able to come in. So the method has become sophisticated rather than the malware.
But tell me something, Narayana. You, from a product standpoint, you frequently upgrade your firmware. You tell them, you know, there are certain things which have been exploitable because I'm using certain other platforms to develop this entire solution and everything. So how frequent you update? I mean, are the customers really upgrading? The moment you tell them that there is something here, you please upgrade. Are they doing it within 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 10 months, 1 year?
It's a very tough question. Okay, see, the problem, like once in 3 months we give a upgrade. Okay, and the software in the UI itself, it shows there is an upgrade available, and we'll also give, okay, you upgrade. If you have a problem, you can downgrade. Every information, all things are given. But what we are noticing in many of the specific segments is they have no guts to touch the working system. If something is working with whatever version it is running,
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. The problem is different here because the IT managers are keep changing. So the new gentleman who's coming in, he do not have an idea about the system. If something happens, his job is at stake. This is the most peculiar problem which is very, very difficult to address. Sometimes you need to threaten people. There is no choice left.
Yes.
Right? Many times that's what we do. There is a security fix we release. There is a kernel release we release. These guys don't want to do it because they are very, from their perspective, whatever they're saying is right. But from my perspective, I feel like for the money I took, I know there is a problem. And this gentleman is not upgrading. So what to do? You threaten them. Sir, if something happens, don't call me. And if you are upgrading it, I will help you.
I'm having urge to ask a question to Mr. Krishnamurthy.
I was to add to what he was telling
Yes,
from
sir,
a
please.
government perspective.
Yeah.
See, in the government sector, be it any utility, it could be electrical or water supply or gas or whatever it is, specifically to our country, we are still not up to the pace as it is in the private sector in terms of the IT systems. So the patch management, what we were talking about, if you ask me about my specific sector where we have a critical infrastructure, we don't have the support of the vendor last 3 years. So I will not even think of doing any patch management because I have a critical infrastructure which has to manage power supply to the entire city. So I cannot compromise on the the system, or I cannot allow my system to go down. So I am forced to hang on to a working system. Plus, the reason again, what comfort I will be getting is because I am working in a secured environment, in a militarized zone. Although that doesn't now, no longer is valid, I think, the militarized zone and the demilitarized zone. But still, at the back of my mind, I always think that my system is in a secured environment, so I am safe. Touch wood, so far nothing has happened, but still, patch management is really the need of the hour, and we have to gear up and see that we have as he was mentioning, in some cases the vendors would be ready for the patch management. I would not have a system or a support of the vendor, my side, the system integrator side, to support that patch.
Got it.
So if this gap is bridged, I think we should have at least some reasonable level of security for this.
But I'm wondering, how did you manage during the COVID times? I mean, private companies, it's very easy to take a decision to, okay, from tomorrow onwards, you're working from home. We can directly say, but government, it's going to be very tough.
We had no other option but to travel to the office and work.
Wow.
No option. We lost many people, but still, in spite
Hats
of
off
that,
to you.
we were working round the clock, 24/7.
But from your point of view, Satish, do you think working from outside the corporate facility, because corporate facility typically has, you know, my firewalls, my proxy and everything, so therefore I'm more protected rather than when I'm working from home, is a kind of misconception, I would say. But do you actually think that working from home or outside the facility has actually, you know, kind of increased the kind of attacks which is happening?
But I think definitely we all saw, because the fundamental design of our whole security infrastructure was more perimeter based, more like central, where employees come to office, you know, I think they come into a certain zone, that's how. So while I think we all we learned the whole, in fact, work from home has really enabled a lot of CIOs, CISOs to put additional controls. So I think that's how, because pre-COVID, in fact, especially the sales force or employees who are outside, until they don't come back to the enterprise, they don't come into the network, their systems were not being,
correct.
The signature was not getting updated. But I think, especially with the recent, whatever we are seeing.
No, productivity definitely has improved. Okay, productivity, no questions about it.
No, not that. I'm talking about these agents going
Okay.
back and talking back to the central missions and getting the updates.
Yeah.
That way, I think we solved the problem, especially today, thanks to VPN. You know, without VPN or the newer solutions, especially with all this lot of buzz around zero trust, I think we have passed that, and this will continue now. In fact,
But do you think it contributes, or it is working from outside my facility has contributed to the increase in the risk exposure of a sophisticated malware attack?
absolutely, because see, what happened, at least earlier, these additional controls which are in the office were helping, but today, see, so as you said, fundamentally it's about people.
Yes.
People are the weakest link.
Correct.
And if you look at most of the sophisticated malware, what we're talking, they come through either phishing email or some sort of social engineering, because that is a channel. Because attacker is not coming through any intrusion, honestly speaking.
No, that is what I was coming to, because when people are working from outside my corporate facility or my secure facility, like Mr. Krishnamurthy was saying, then I'm a little more vulnerable when I'm working from a different facility. So what are the ways which somebody can get compromised, or what are the vectors what are the top 3 vectors would you think are contributing to the weaknesses there?
So especially work from home, what happened, in fact, many organizations also had to enable even some certain workforce personal laptops to be used for corporate use, because that was the only way how they had to enable. So while we had all the stringent policies of MDM or no BIOD, but I think that was a situation where we had to enable back, in fact, employee's laptop because someone remotely. So I think those probably a lot of organizations had to struggle, because in fact those systems were vulnerable, and this is the time exactly where the targeted attacks, in fact, were targeting these employees, especially through a simple phishing email, sending certain payload malware, where it's so easily the malware can be downloaded, and that was the window through which, in fact, a lot of malware attacks happened.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
And I can add to this, especially when people were working from home, there were 2 extremities that was happening. One extremity is the guy was getting overworked, so he used to be a little careless or a little overzealous. Then there was another set of people who were having a laid-back life, who were in a very comfort zone, being at home, having their own whatever the habits that they had cultivated during that time. So both were dangerous. Both were dangerous. One, because of being overburdened with work, he was not able to see the signals. The other, just because he had a very casual approach, he also had no, and that is the time when people were also looking at what is the environmental status from a COVID perspective or medicines perspective or statistics perspective. And this is where the attackers took advantage and were able to create specific phishing emails.
No, but did the customers reach out to you asking your expert opinion, saying that, okay, I'm getting exposed, can you help me out? I mean, did they approach you, ask for your advice to how to change their security control architecture?
True. It took some time for the IT departments to react, especially since my background at that time was Middle East. What happened was the first 2 months, nothing really worked. But then there also, because of the, like here, Essential Commodities Act allowed them to deliver the systems, pre-configured systems to their homes. But before that, there were a set of people who were working from home, and they had their systems which were not really configured to work from home.
Okay.
So, when people did reach out to us, how should we build a fortress or a defense mechanism between them? The only way was Zoom. And we also know what happened to Zoom, right? Okay. But despite that, we advise them to take up the Zoom sessions and tell them about social engineering aspects and ask them to be careful and not allow even family members. See, children started playing with the laptops.
Exactly.
You understand? So we had to tell them that they cannot do all those things. And yes, the culture, it took some time for it to sink, but yes, it took almost around 6 months before they felt that they were better off. And by then, the VPN technologies also came down, costs of VPNs came down, and they were able to centrally push and get the VPNs done. So yes, it did take some time, but then they were, many of the organizations, even mid-sized organizations, were able to, protect the systems around 6 to 8 months down the line. Well, then look, every control brings in an additional vulnerability. You know that, right? So then it is a never-ending chain, and that's how it progresses.
So, Krishnamurthy, tell me something. How do you prepare yourself, I mean, your point of view, I mean, how do you prepare yourself to address a particular risk? In this case, it's a sophisticated malware attack, right? So, if you have to be, you are given the budget and you have been asked to protect yourself from the sophisticated malware attack, what are the things would you want to look at first? Patching is one part which you said.
Yeah, right now we are in the stage where we are setting up a SOC. It's in the process of getting set up. From there we learn from the people who work in the SOC.
And then we build.
And that will give us the base upon which we need to build and also understand what would be the requirements. This would be my first step.
But Satish, what is your take? Will the SOC really help in looking at these things? Because Sesha sir was pointing out a very simple thing, people, process and technology. It can do only what it can do.
See, definitely, it's not, there's no single solution. Basically, it has to happen in a, I call it as like an orchestra.
Yeah.
It's not one person just playing the music. So SOC definitely helps to have a early detection.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most of the, if you go back and look at the breach reports, most of the breaches, if you go back and look at the forensics report, all the way it started back 6 months back with some small indication where the SOC guys found it, reported it, but then it was not taken seriously.
Precisely.
So it is not just not having a SOC. Lighter note, a lot of organizations will have a SOC in place, will invest heavily on SOC tools, SIM tools, but not invest on people. So ideally speaking, I've seen this, like while there was a SOC L1 guy who raised a ticket, that was an early indicator, but if that would have been taken positively by it would have been investigated, correlated, I think probably a lot of times.
Actually, your point, you have moved away directly, jumped to 4 or 5 blocks and you have gone to my answer actually.
No,
So
the point was to
put you back there.
okay. The point was to basically, it's just not having SOC in place, but definitely SOC adds a lot of value.
But Sesha sir, tell me something. As any organization, they have audits in place to do penetration testing, to do red teaming exercise. All these things they have as a hygiene check to see how secure I am and take it up. So, do you think organizations are really doing this in a serious way? Number one. Number two, does it really add value?
Well, see, red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming, whatever you name it, are really the better aspects of how you are going to protect your environment. So what happened was VAPT, when we started it, it was only showing what is a vulnerability, which was just historic, and you used to put a remedy. By the time you put a remedy, it is already 4 months, 6 months down the line. You don't know what are the new vulnerabilities that has come in. So at any given point of time, you don't know what is the status of your organizational security posture. That's exactly where the proactiveness is really required. And the red teaming exercise is, this is exactly where the red teaming exercise is going to come into play and show this security posture in real time, open the eyes of the management and be able to showcase that where they stand vis-a-vis an attack. Now remember one thing, red teaming exercise is a friendly exercise. If a friendly exercise can really be successful, then you can think what an attacker can do. So yes, red teaming, blue teaming and all these things proactively, if it is taken up, should be done. But the problem is, do you have good skill sets out in the market to do that kind of an exercise? So that competence levels has to be built up, and especially from an India perspective, being such a vast country with such complex, environments, with even a startup having a server. Yes, cloud helps, I'm not saying no, but then there are organizations which still start with on-premise, and when it is on-premise, you don't know how the vulnerability is.
Correct.
And it has to mature. Just like today people are acceptable about an awareness session, they should also be acceptable about VAPTs and red teaming exercises.
While
Only
you mentioned technology, one of the points which crossed my mind is, are the OEMs who make the products, right? Are they conscious when they actually develop the product to stop sophisticated malware, right? When they actually have to do that, do you think they, because they come and advertise, they say, boss, I can turn the world upside down for you, right? I'm not targeting you now. Okay, so that's what they say. I mean, they believe that it can happen, and because we are part of the certain organization where we are practicing, you were a practitioner before, now you are a consultant, and you are seeing completely from an outside point of view. Now, what's your take there? Because you see OEM selling a lot of, some products are really good, they are really amazing. Most of them are, the brochure talks more than the
all these IT systems. So there is a need for infusing more, human resources having this kind of a background, and also the fact that in the earlier discussions, I heard that the knowledge level also is lacking, because again, as I said, in a government setup, the training or anything is limited. It's for the traditional work what we have been doing,
Yeah.
but this is a different aspect where you need to upgrade everyone who is using the system, be it system user or non-system user. What we have done from our perspective, we have every year 2 sessions we organize through CDAC for training our employees, like a workshop kind of a session where every employee of our organization is exposed to the events or the happenings in the environment.
Yeah.
So I think we have started off, but still it is very much at the bottom level. A great deal of effort is required to bring up to the level that is required to manage our systems.
But Satish, what do you think, from a public sector, Mr. Krishnamurthy was highlighting his challenges. Whatever he has seen in overall public sector, what do you think is the situation in the private sector?
No, I think upskilling is common for all of us, in fact, especially this domain is so quickly changing.
I just want to make him happy about it.
Yeah. So, it's not that only your sector people need to learn. Of course, everyone are in the same boat. It's not because the technology is so quickly evolving, and the problem statement keeps changing because the technology itself is evolving and a lot of new things coming in. and newer solutions also. Because see, while the cyber security industry itself has become so large now, with a lot of new, it's a very, companies, a lot of companies will invest in getting solution, but until you don't train your workforce how to use them effectively, because I see most of the time, even it's not just public sector, even private sectors get the best solutions, but if you do not implement it correctly, I think getting the best value out of the solution only, how do you implement it?
No, actually, again, you have touched upon an important point. This is a question to Mr. Narayana. When people actually look at products and say, was it to XDR, I mean, I'm just taking some examples. Do they even understand what is XDR? I mean, if I'm buying something, I should know what it is, right?
No, see
I mean, what is the kind of awareness or the knowledge level of the person who's actually wanting to buy certain technologies from a partner? Do they really understand?
No, it's yes and no, actually. That's what it is. It depends on the segment. Some of the people who are talking about the products, at least they know what they want. Whether they understand the technology or not is immaterial.
Okay.
But at least they are very clear what they want. So they are saying, okay, these are the things I want to implement, and whether this product will support or this solution or how you will achieve my requirement, whether with one product or multiple product. If that knowledge is there, that is sufficient. Not they don't want to understand completely the technology, right?
Correct.
If they understand everything, then people like us are not required.
No, but the needle actually moves, because I come with a very strong belief that it's a symbiotic effect, right? I mean, both I'll also learn from you and you also learn from us, because for everything you can't have a test setup, right?
Understood.
It's
But at least if the guy says that this is what he want, then it is actually a learning process also for us, because most of the time it is not ready-made solution.
Correct.
You need to create a solution. You need to sit back, sit in your lab, figure out.
This is where it becomes more pertinent, you know. I mean, I don't want to name companies, but I know organizations will say that if I have to invest in some technologies, pick up the Gartner report, see who are the leaders and visionaries there, pick up the top 3, do the evaluation, finish it off. I mean, I know companies who are not even in the Gartner report, who are doing flamboyant. Their solutions are far better than the ones which are in the Gartner.
No, that is there. That affects us also. See, we are an Indian company, okay, and I am not listed in Gartner. Neither I don't want to do ICSA.
Okay.
Right? But it doesn't make any sense. ICSA is purely for firewall, right?
Yes.
Everyone use IP tables. You take anybody in the market, right? If that guy pass IP tables pass, my IP tables also pass. Why should I spend $50,000 on ICSA? That's what the take I took, right? So that depends on the thing. Some people says like, yes, if you are in Gartner, you are the big product. You cannot change their views, right? But many people, what we are seeing in last 5 years, this is what the change we have seen.
So there's
Last
a change.
5 years, yes, people are not looking at all those. Yes, there are some people who are looking at, they are telling that top companies, those are not your customers, just move away from them. Okay. Right? But 80% of the people are willing to look for a better technology, better support, and better help to implement the stuff what they are looking for. So that change is happening in the market.
Just a time check with Suganya. How much more time? 5. Okay, thanks. Thank you. So,
if I can add,
yes, Sesha.
what are you saying? This Gartner this quadrant, the issue is pushing the responsibility out. I choose Gartner so that I am no longer responsible for the product's failure, if any.
But that will defy what Mr. Navi was saying, na? CERT-in doesn't know Gartner and all.
True, no? That's what I'm also trying to say. When managements choose certain big, whether consultants-wise or whether products-wise, when they choose the biggest ones, they feel that they are, they don't have the responsibility to answer for any failures.
So
that's the reason why many a times, not all the time, but many a times people take that decision. This is the view I have got based when I have gone interacting, especially when procurement departments put those clauses. We ask, meeting mid-sector organizations, we ask, why are you doing it? Like he said, when smaller solutions are cheaper or more reasonable,
effective.
And because they are smaller, they are able to give you more support. Why don't you go? So these are the answers which I have.
So last one, then we'll go with the questions to the audience. So we looked upon what is sophisticated malware, we looked upon as to why organizations are getting attacked and how they get compromised. We looked at what are the contributors to it. So having said that, if you have an opportunity to take a decision and assume that there are budgets are all approved, and I know you're enjoying it, budgets are approved, what are the 3 things would you recommend to any organization that, these are the 3 things in your point of view, need not be the same. In your point of view, what would you place it before the table?
I think basically start with basics. As
Okay.
you said,
Start with basics.
Basics means basic fundamental, basic hygiene. Patching, as you said rightly, patching.
Starting with basics, I don't need to give you budget, right? So that's taken care of.
No, the point is, it's not just only money at all, because one is, when I say start with basics, awareness.
Okay.
Because only technology will not solve any problem. So one is
Yeah.
get the right.
Different schools of thoughts.
Exactly. Maybe I think, so when I say start with basics, a lot of organizations may think very big, but sometimes we miss the basic hygiene part, whether the patching or user awareness. I think those will help organizations. So while you look at a great solution, of course, it's whether Gartner, not Gartner, you do a lot of, so today customers also do a lot of evaluation. What will fit you, POC, until you don't do a POC, you define your use cases, it will fit or not. And so taking a best product, implement correctly, and awareness, and then of course patching, this is how you have to start.
Sesha sir, what would you think? What do you suggest?
See, again, starting with the basics, the requirement analysis. The requirement analysis is always based upon what you wanted or what you have as a wish list, right? Now, this wish list might not be futuristic and might not be able to keep up with the technology. So what you would be doing based upon a requirement analysis that you are having on the present date, you would have fixed your budget. Now, let us assume there is a vendor who comes with a futuristic solution. You don't have the budget, you don't have the means to afford that, so you pass it off. So this is one of the major reasons why people get stuck within 3 years where their technology becomes old. You understand? So all right. Now, another thing that happens is a scope creep. As a new invention or a new technology is being done, the expectations is sky high. So again, that's where people fail, because they feel that the vendor has not been able to give them what they want, or the change management process is so complex that the project fails.
Yeah.
So these could be some of the reasons why many a time we will not be able to achieve the levels of, I'm not only talking of productivity, I'm also talking from the security perspective. Ultimately, what we are trying to prevent here is malware due to vulnerabilities in the process of implementing whether infrastructure or application.
Got it.
So how are we going to prevent this? So these are the factors that they will have to look at.
I have
Design
some summary.
factors are-
I have some summary to add, but before that, any questions from the audience? Resolutions. Yep.
Happen, still liability with you. You cannot say no. Neither you can say no to board, neither you can say no to your stakeholder. That's the reason they rely upon you. Because CISO is not actually looked from a perspective as a technology leader. He is not only a business leader, he is a trust leader, establishing this trust between your customer, between your business and stakeholder and investor. Another thing is, when you are looking for a product, it could be the world best product, but if you have a distributed global company, you need to see that which region, which product you will get the support. That is very important. Another thing, and most important thing, is that particular product capable to address your requirement?
Yeah, well said, Lopa. I mean, actually, I know that you're telling it from your experience in the past. The summary points which I would like to add here is, in addition to what Mr. Sesha and Satish have put across on the table, awareness is one first piece, right? When we talk about awareness, it's not typical awareness as to every employee has to look upon. Yes, that is definitely a must one. But from an IT and security team point of view, they need to be knowledgeable and skilled to identify the blips in the patterns or whatever it is. So they need to identify that the awareness of if there is a blip. Because if we are talking about a black and white event, which is either a malware or non-malware, then it's easy to take a call. But the gray areas are the ones which is going to, as Satish was mentioning, it takes a long while. I mean, Sesha also said, it takes 270 days to understand that we have been compromised. Why did it take so long? Because we didn't even know what to look for. So that's number one. Number two, look at your control architecture and don't look at one technology as a single point of complementing the attack vector. Because one XDR, if it's going to be a single pill for remedy, in my opinion, I don't think then everybody will invest only XDR and nothing else, right? So we need the architecture to talk to each of the component to understand and support each other. The third one, which is obviously, God forbid, 1 and 2 is effective, or maybe somewhere it's not effective and maybe the malware is even more sophisticated, we get hit, then I need a solid backup and instant response in place. So that is your plan B. So if plan B's first statement is to make plan A work, but in case plan A doesn't work, then we have to look at plan B. With this, I think, thank you so much, Satish, Mr. Sesha, Narayana, and Kusuma sir. It was very good. I mean, half of my questions were more impromptu, I know that. And your discussions of points provoked the thinking. I'm sure the audience will be very benefited out of the discussion. Thank you so much. Ajay, one more question. Questions?
Do we have a question there? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. So my question is for gentleman from BESCOM. So now looking at the Ukraine-Russia war, so in case our country gets into a war state or war zone, then I think so BESCOM being the critical power provider, and that too for like Silicon City, Bangalore, that will be the first point of attack. So means what are the responses or what are the security guardrails in place to defend?
As I mentioned earlier, we are in the stage of, we already have in place a cyber compliant system which is compliant or which is adhering to the NERC standards. Now, going forward, we are in the we are also having this the VAPT that is being carried out biannually, and the first test is actually going on now, and the results was expected shortly, and we'll be taking action upon the report and the recommendation. And in addition to that, we are in the process of setting up a SOC, which should also give us valuable inputs on where we stand in terms of the power system security, or the system that is handling the power system, the IT system that is handling the power system. So I think we are on track in terms of securing the critical infrastructure from the power supply management. Again, we have another big IT system which deals with the billing and collection and such things, where the cyber security compliance has been adhered to as per the national policy.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for hearing us out.
Well, thank you so much. What a terrific panel discussion. Thank you so much to our moderator, Mr. Bala, and thank you so much all the panelists for that panel discussion. And with this, may I request Mr. Bala to kindly help us to hand over the token of gratitude, love, respect, and appreciation to all the four panelists amongst us. Sure, I'll call out the name and maybe we can go in the same sequence. To start with, Mr. Bala, may I request you to kindly hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Sesha Prakash Kusuma Sreenivasa, Chief Consulting Officer at Gorisco Solution. May I request you all to kindly put your hands together. Let me reiterate the point that Mr. Sesha comes with an experience of 42 years in the market. Next, may I request Mr. Krishnamurthy, General Manager and CISO of BESCOM, a very important man amongst us. And I think it has become even more important after that last question that was asked.